Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I need to call the meeting to order. Everyone, please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As usual, silence yourself. Ms. Summers, you have roll call, please.
Mayor Plummer,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks.
Here.
Commissioner Fields.
Here.
Commissioner Gray.
Here.
Commissioner Galbraith.
Here.
We have a quorum and ready for the transaction of business.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. First item we have is approval of the regular meeting minutes for March 11, 2025. If everybody has had a chance to review those, may I get a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions, or corrections? Pardon me. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to section 5 of our agenda today, which is ordinances. We do have a couple of items for consideration today. Before we start the first one, if I could get a motion to enter into a public hearing portion of the agenda. This is pursuant to KRS 96.534. When we are doing adjustments to the electric rate, we are required to have a public hearing portion to give an opportunity for comment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That opens our public hearing comment portion. This is related to ordinance 2025-7, which we will be hearing a second reading on shortly. Anybody who wishes to speak will have 5 minutes for their remarks. This is related to a proposed carbon-free choice program, and this public hearing would be conducted again in accordance with KRS 96.534. We do not have anybody signed up for public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this item? Requesting one more time if there's any interest in public comment. Hearing none, may I have a motion to resume the regular meeting?
So moved.
And may I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This brings us to second reading of ordinance 2025-7, which is an ordinance amending chapter 34 electricity, establishing a section of the ordinance for a carbon-free choice program. This was presented at first meeting, but as you all are aware, we are members of KYMEA, which is where we purchase our electric from. Because of the programs that they have related to Ashwood Solar and their hydroelectric power system, we are able to offer the ability for our customers to purchase up to 100% carbon-free energy. They are able to buy this renewable energy in full blocks up to a year. So the way the ordinance is written for your consideration is it adopts the program and it talks about the process. But I want to highlight that there is a charge related to it, and the way that is written is whatever the charge that KYMEA is currently charging, which as of right now when the program's being established, it's $5 per block. And then there would be an additional $1.50 per block that the city would retain for administrative purposes for this. This would be completely voluntary for anybody who wanted to purchase this carbon-free renewable energy, but this is a program that we're excited to be able to offer to our customers. Brian, did you have
$1.50 per month.
per block per month, yes. Any questions on this item? Ms. Sparkman, anything that I should add? No? Ms. Sells, if you could please call the roll.
Can I get a motion and a
Oh,
second?
yes, sorry, may I have
I
a
move
motion?
to approve ordinance 2025-7 related to carbon-free choice rates.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any further comments on this item? Thank you, Ms. Settles. If you can now please call the roll.
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
Commissioner Fields.
Yes.
Commissioner Gray.
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That brings us to second reading of ordinance 2025-8, which is an ordinance addressing pedestrians. This item was presented on first reading. in full as well, but this is the ordinance that we discussed as we reviewed our language in accordance with Champion versus the Commonwealth related to panhandling. What we really are focusing on is how pedestrians, from a safety standpoint, are interacting with our street on our arterial roadways, which is our high traffic roadways. So the proposed ordinance focuses in that area to address pedestrian safety. It clarifies our definition of arterial roadways. It provides restrictions for solicitation in the public, in the street, provides pedestrian safety measures, and it does talk about exceptions that it would not apply. So with the focus of people not being in the street to solicit for items. One of the questions that did bring up, at the previous meeting, was related to parades, and if an encroachment permit is obtained to be able to be in the street, that would be the applicable piece of that. So we did look at that, and we feel the language would be okay to move forward as currently written.
Yeah, and it's just a limited scope, as you all know. It covers the entirety of the bypass, Lexington Road / Main Street to Clintonville Road, and then picks up again on the other side of town at the bypass. So that's where it applies.
Are there any questions on this item that staff can assist with? Hearing none, may I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, Ms. Settles, if you could please call the roll.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Fields,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Plummer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That brings us to a first reading of ordinance 2025-9, which Mr. Smith's gonna brief you on, but I'll go ahead and read it. It's an ordinance related to snow emergencies, snow removal, snow emergency routes, and a parking prohibition. So, Mr. Smith, thank you.
Morning.
Good morning, Mike.
This will help us, better clean up, areas like Main Street, give us the ability to get all the snow removed in a timely manner, and, as we look, there may be other areas that we can put this in place. There'll be signs that go up, says snow emergency routes, so that way they're alerted that, and it won't be forever snow. If it's a half an inch of snow, it will be taken care of, but this will focus on the bigger snows and help us get it cleaned up a little better and a little faster without having to move around cars and all that. It basically explains itself in the ordinance pretty good, so I think it's a good idea.
So, as you guys have seen with the last couple of snow responses, staff has taken a very proactive approach to work to make sure Main Street is clear for parking prohibition. So this really formalizes what we've done in the last couple, which we have seen work very well. So kudos to the Public Works and the Police Department working together on that item. I do want to make sure to point out that there is a fine that would be related to violation of this, which could include the towing costs, storage costs, any fees related to that, plus $100 per offense for that item. So that is what we're proposing related to anybody who violates the prohibition. So the prohibition would be announced with certain timeframes when it would be active. There's some language if we don't announce the prohibition with sufficient notice period, if you will. That's defined in the ordinance that the violation wouldn't apply. They would have time to leave their car in the streets, but then move it in the morning. But certainly we hope, unless something sneaks up on us, that we wouldn't run into that issue. Brian, anything?
Yeah, just a couple more things to add. So the existing portion we have now is significantly smaller than this, and it just really applies to sidewalks. This is gonna address the parking. It's Main Street and the bypass. You would think there's not parking on the bypass, but you all have been out in emergency services, you know, in the heavy snow, there are vehicles that get stuck out there. This would allow that to be addressed as well. Beyond that is it clarifies the city's lack of role on streets that aren't yet dedicated. So Mike's crews are not plowing streets that aren't city streets yet. At the same time, sometimes what calls that get made as the plow goes by, and this is a new term for me, maybe for y'all, a snow windrow, where the snow can pile up. It's less of an issue probably on a straight run, maybe more on a cul-de-sac or on a dead end. There's no way to avoid those, and if we want our streets plowed, they're gonna happen. But it's not the city's responsibility to go back and shovel out every driveway where we have some snow accumulated. On the snow removal, of course, it leaves in the sidewalk. It does allow more flexibility. The old rule was 24 hours. So if we have a foot of snow and we have an emergency, nobody can get out there, so it's gonna extend that time. Obviously, it makes clear that if it's a vacant or unoccupied property, it's still the property owner's responsibility to get out there and address that on the sidewalk. If I'm shoveling my sidewalk, I can't throw it back out into the street. You know, Mike just comes by the truck and I'm shoveling it back out there. We can't have that. And also to clarify, I shouldn't be shoveling snow and piling it up in front of a fire hydrant. So I think the fire department would appreciate that. So just a little more care in what we do as we remove snow. So just want to touch on those highlights too.
Absolutely. And this was certainly a project that Stephanie worked very closely with the departments on, and Brian assisted with us, so there was a lot of effort to come together, which I always like to see as we're looking at things, the effort for that cross-department work. So. Are there any questions that we can address on this item? Any concerns before it comes forward in second reading?
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Thanks.
So this second part of it, which is a first reading of ordinance 2025-10, which is an ordinance related to parking in the city, really goes hand in hand with 2025-9. So under that, we are proposing to have the parking violation, the fine be $100. So in 2025-10, we're referencing back. This is the area where we outline some of our parking fines. So we are referencing back to that section so that we're aware that there's another applicable fine in a section. But in reviewing this, our parking in a fire lane, or in front of a fire hydrant was $75. And so looking at that, we know when we brought forward our most recent parking violations, we were still way under some of the comparisons, but we felt that making sure that the fire hydrant parking was not below the snow emergency parking, we are proposing to lift that to $100 as well. Any concerns or questions on that item? That brings us to first reading of ordinance 2025-11, which is an ordinance enacting and adopting a supplement to the Code of Ordinance for the City of Paris, Kentucky. This is an item that we regularly do as we go and do our ordinances. We make sure those get codified and we update the supplement. So these are for ordinances that were passed between July 23rd, 2024 and January 15th, 2025. To make sure our codification gets done. Ms. Phillips, is there anything else I should include there? Any questions on this item?
It's already on the website.
Wonderful. Those will come before you as second readings next meeting. That brings us to consent agenda. We do have 7 items on consent agenda. Are there any of these items which the commission would like pulled out and discussed separately? Hearing none, may I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as proposed?
So
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to our regular agenda. First item is we have a budget amendment request for planning and zoning. Michelle is here and she will present on this item for you.
Good morning.
So the planning commission met on February 20th and approved an amended budget. We are increasing our budget by $1,198. However, we are not requesting funds from the city or the county. the planning commission plans on pulling that $1,200 from the reserve account. But, basically, we're moving around some line items. We saved money on the planning administrator salary fee. We saved money on the building inspector salary. So we had a total savings of $48,195. But then we had added some expenses for code enforcement board commission, code enforcement legal counsel, things that, you know, the boards that we were just getting up and running, we didn't have those in the budget. So we added those in. Of course, we had a temporary employee that we had to add. We had expenses for that person. Didn't have enough money in the budget for the comp plan that EHI is finishing up for us, so we had to add in a little bit more for it. And then they also wanted to go ahead and pay off the truck to save us a little bit of money. So total expenses was $46,997. The savings was $48,195, which gave us a increase in the budget of $1,198, which will come from our reserve account, not requesting money from the city or the county.
And so this item comes before you because while they're not requesting additional funds from the city, the way the interlocal is laid out, they have the authority to move items within their budget, but anytime they are increasing their budget in total or decreasing, it has to come back to both the city and the fiscal court for consideration.
I just had one question.
Yes, sir.
Regarding EHI, is there any timeline on when we're going to get that in place or get moving on that
He hopes to have a draft to me in April.
in April? Okay, all right.
Any further questions on this item? If not, may I have a motion to approve the proposed budget amendment for planning and zoning?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Brings us to our next item, which is related to the police fleet and our annual replacement. As we know, we have a goal to replace police vehicles on a regular and routine basis. That's something that we plan for and budget for each year. We did issue an RFP related to that, and received responses. All of them came from one vendor. And what we are recommending today is to move to reject the bids received related to the purchase of the police vehicles and allow for direct negotiation for the purchase of the vehicles. And then we would bring back for you at the upcoming meeting or the one following those results. And this is as we look at the consideration. We issued the RFP at the beginning of the fiscal year, and we do believe based on newer models coming out, changing in circumstances, we might be able to secure a more favorable rate for the city. Brian, did you have anything else for that?
That covers it.
On the bid sheet that was, I guess, back in July, looks like several dates received, 3 or 4 different dates on there. Am I to I'll assume, okay, that the second item, it says number 1, we got in 7/22, we got a Durango. They bid the Durango, but then on the 29th, do I assume then there's 5 units, it's the same thing?
So, and the way it would work is we will receive bids once we publish it.
Right.
We can receive them for a period of time and we collect them. And then we hold a time where they may be received and we record when they come in, but they are all opened at the same time. So we do
No. Okay.
a bid opening. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Well, it's just that I took, the way I operate, is I took item number 1, and then I multiplied it times item number 2, it says 5 units. So the numbers come out the same, so why are there 2 bids from Bachman on Durangos? I mean, it's the same price, 2 different days. And then we're gonna are we trying to renegotiate then with Bachman or some other,
Yeah.
she's not here, is it?
Is
Okay.
not. With Bachman being the bidder, we likely would negotiate with Bachman.
With Bachman? Okay. Okay, I was just trying to understand why we
Yeah.
rejected that. If we can save money, I'm all for it. I'm all for negotiating. And hopefully, we can also negotiate with the, what is it, I won't call it, the fit-ups. But anyway, that's another story for another day.
Yes, sir. May I get a motion to move to reject all bids and authorize direct negotiations?
So moved.
And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or comments on this item? Hearing none, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. It does bring us to our February financials. Okay?
Okay, thanks. We'll start on page 85, where we have the cash balances for the general fund. See, total operating funds at the end of February are at 7.5 million, compared to same time last year at 6.9 million. Even just looking at the end of January, we're up just a little bit, 150,000 from January as well too. And then our CD investments are at 3,120,000. If you just kind of look at where we started out last year, because we've been into this for a year now, started out with 3 million, been rolling the interest and stuff over, so we're at obviously adding 120,000 in interest onto those CDs over the time. And then the restricted funds pretty much have not changed, still at 198, 179, giving us a total cash balance at 10,838. Interest income is at 273, 108. Kind of looking over the overall balances and everything right now, that's a return on our balances of around 2.62%. And then moving on to the utility cash balances, see our operating funds were at 744, 194 at the end of February. Same time last year, we're at 709, 585. So slight increase year over year. Do see a bump in from January to the end of February as well. And then once again on the CDs, this time last year started out with 500,000, rolling the interest over. We're up to 523 on the value on those CDs. We're still maintaining right around 3,067,000 or 69,000 in the bond proceed account down in the restricted. We probably will start seeing some of that come down here a little bit with finishing up both the grants, the CDBG and the Kentucky House Bill funds on the transfer station. So we'll probably start seeing that balance come down. And then total cash balance at the end of February is at 5,560,000. Looking at our interest income year to date, it's at 155, giving us a return of about 2.87%. And then next page, we just kind of have a summary of where how the CDs are all kind of sitting with maturity dates. We have a couple of them kind of maturing here in May, and that's kind of planned as we go through our budget process, trying to just make sure as we see how our money will need going into next year's budget, then we'll kind of look at reinvesting these with different maturity dates and links and everything. Moving on to page 88, have the general fund revenues and expenses budget to actual. At the end of February, revenues were at 9,868,000, close to about 67% above to our budget. And then our expenses were at 9,040,000, so leaving revenues over expenses of 827,841. Kind of projecting out through the rest of the year, we're still kind of seeing that trend of a positive of revenues exceeding our expenses. Just to go back up to page 88, a couple things I want to point out. Current tax collections, right now we have exceeded our budget, so we're at 992,875 compared to our budget at 964. And then also too, on the insurance license fee, we have right now temporarily have exceeded that budget of 2,189,000 compared to the budget of 2,050,000. So obviously April is the one where we see a lot of the payroll taxes come in, so we'll kind of have that update for the April financials. And then page 90 is just kind of got the summary of the 5-year trends on the main revenues for the general fund. You can see from a year over year, right now, we're up 535,000 or 6.1% to the same time last year. It will be kind of interesting as we head into the last quarter of this fiscal year to see if that trend kind of continues, or if we may see some dips in our numbers as far as some of the tariff action that's been going on recently, and some just shuffling around on the economy. I'm going to skip over the next couple pages and go down to page 96, which is the utility fund. As of right now, our revenues are at $13,037,000. And if you kind of just scroll up there a little bit, you can see that we've brought in just under $3.5 million in grant money. Most of that goes for the transfer station as well too. So really, if we're kind of looking year over year, we're pretty well consistent from a billing standpoint on our utilities. And if you kind of even just go down through our projected right now, we're still kind of positive in a lot of our areas as far as billing goes by the end of the year. And then our total expenses right now are at $13,030,000, giving us revenues over expenses by $7,865. Trending out for the rest of the year is, we are showing a positive number on that, but I will kind of caution, we've been working on power production and working on switching some of the expenses that we've had in there from a net to a gross, especially the purchases that we do from KYMEA. So that's one of the reasons why you're kind of seeing that large positive. It's negative right there, but it's actually positive because we'll be under our budget on that. However, that number may change as we kind of progress through the year to probably even out what we're projecting as far as over under. And that's the financials for February.
Two questions. On the opioid, is that an annual contribution from, is there a number of years that money is going to flow in?
Yes, there is an annual expected contribution out, and don't quote me, I can look it up, but in like the next 20 years. We did receive upfront it's made up of numerous settlements. There's about 7 to 10 different settlements that come into play. Some of those we received multiple years up front, and so then we won't keep receiving it at the same pace that we received it initially, but there is expected contribution.
Some contribution coming in
years.
over a period, kind of like the tobacco settlement money
That's correct.
that happened several years ago. And then Brad, the last question on page 96. We've gone through 6, 7, 8. We've gone through 8 months, and we've only got $7,865 in the utility fund as a net. There's not any concern there. And I say, from that standpoint, we've worked 8 months and our expenses are within $7,800 of what we've taken in.
Not right now, it's not a concern, because what you're seeing is a lot of in and out right now for the transfer station and some other of the construction projects going on, especially like the water plant. And it's just like we've incurred those expenses right now, but we haven't gotten reimbursed, or we haven't taken a drawdown on some of those loan proceeds. So, you know, even though kind of from the utility billing stand, we're on an accrual basis on those part, really the grant and the loan monies were a little more on a cash basis as those come in. So, and that's why you're kind of seeing that, you know, the projection number higher than where we have been right now. So
That's fine. But yeah, when I was looking at nothing but numbers at 103 Lakeview Drive the other night, I thought, well, we're making $1,000 a month. That's not real good. But we got to do something different. So anyway.
Yeah, we should start seeing some of those, you know, grant monies or loan monies come in to bring that back up.
Okay.
Brad, Sweetie, I have a complaint,
What you got?
and I'm passing on to you. We have a lot of people who tune into our meetings and they hear your reports and they don't understand a single word you're saying. We get the packets, we have a chance to look at it from ahead of time, we can call you and ask questions. But is there a different way that you can present the reports, maybe in more common English language? So that the general public can
Yeah.
understand, you know, are our departments in the black or are they in the red?
Sure.
Do, you know, what is it with grants, what you mentioned today, but if they don't have they don't have the information that we have.
Sure.
So they're saying, I don't understand what he's talking about.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
Okay, so
We could probably start throwing some like graphs in there that may explain,
whatever.
yeah, some things a little easier and, you know,
Yeah.
maybe even just, I'm kinda like you, I wanted to change up a presentation a little, from like these, what's on page 96, so we'll start exploring some different possibilities.
And if there are some things that we really need to know, and we need to know all of it, of course,
Mhm.
just present it in such a way that when the general public hears it, whether they're sitting here or online or whatever, they know what we're talking about. Most of the calls that I get, they don't have a clue. So,
Sure.
okay, thank
We'll work
you.
on it for you.
Any further questions or comments on that item? Hearing none, may I get a motion to approve the February financials?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussions or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to outside agencies. Ms. Allison, you want to kick us off?
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I'm reporting for the chamber, and then I'm gonna take off that hat and I'll report for tourism on behalf of Betty Ann. So, I'll start with chamber. We are up to 11 new members since, started on February 10th. Wanted to give y'all a couple of updates on some of the programming that we have and where we're at with that. So we are finishing out our youth leadership Bourbon County semester. So that, just to remind you, those are our 11th graders at Paris City Schools and Bourbon County Schools. So this Friday will be our second to last session. We're doing a small business day, so it'll be a progressive day, hearing from a business that is not yet open, so discussing inception and securing loans and things like that when you're starting a business. And then second, we'll hear from a business that's been around for a few years, they've found their groove, and starting to expand. And then lastly, we'll hear from a business that's been around for years and years. Then we're gonna give the students the opportunity to create their own small business that they believe would work well in our community, and then they'll present those to us and those business owners. So really excited to get that going on Friday. We're also gearing up for our leadership Bourbon County. So again, just to remind you, that is for professionals in the community, whether they're in management or owning a business or leadership in an organization. The application for that is out, available, posted, as well as any of the sponsorship opportunities. The tuition for that is $350. And then we do begin that semester in April out at Mustard Seed Hill for our orientation, and then that will finish up in December. So we've got that starting very soon. We have scheduled our golf scramble. That's May 30th at Houston Oaks Golf Course. The registration and sponsorship information, again, is posted for that and available as well. And we have scheduled our Tour de Paris 5K, and I will get with you on the closure request for that. That's June 21st, which is a Saturday morning. So lots of really exciting things happening. We do have several ribbon cuttings. I was able to do my first ribbon cutting as chamber director on Friday over at Nichols Real Estate. So that was a great time had by all. We do have a ribbon cutting on April 3rd at 4 p.m. That is a combined ribbon cutting with Lolia Aesthetics and Inked Collective down here on Main Street. Let's see, the 4th, we have an 11 o'clock ribbon cutting out at the Millersburg boat ramp. So I will have Scott help me get out there safely. And then we do have on April 12th, the Paris Vet Clinic. They are doing their annual rabies clinic out at the Patrick Brannon Dog Park, but we're gonna kick that event off with a ribbon cutting because they're a new chamber member. So that'll be at 8 a.m. on the 12th. And that's all I've got for chamber. So any questions before I move on to tourism? Very good? Okay, so I'll take that off, put this hat on. Okay, so for Betty Ann, she wanted me to let you all know that we are gearing up for our Harris's for Horse Lovers event. That will be from April 1st until May 15th. Couple of different events that'll be happening during that time. The Rotary Club will have their Run for the Roses Derby party. All About Kentucky is planning a silk jockey, the jockey silk door hanger experience where you can go in and paint those, so that'll be a lot of fun. Paris High School is also doing a spring door decor make and take class. Hopewell Creative Arts Guild, they are doing an adult art class, and that'll be like a real horseshoe that folks will get to go in and paint and decorate. There will be bourbon tastings. We're gonna have mint julep making classes down at Lil's. There's a Golden Chance farm day at Bourbon Boot. Window displays. We've got 20 some odd merchants downtown who have partnered with local farms to display their farm memorabilia in the windows. So April 1st through May 15th, horses on Main, literally. We're gonna have a great time. So that is what I've got from tourism. Any questions on that?
No.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Allison.
I know Michelle did not have any additional items for planning and zoning, but I did want to highlight, because she won't do it for herself, but she has recently passed her zoning inspector certification, which is another step towards obtaining her AICP. So certainly we want to recognize the effort that has gone into that. Congratulations, Michelle.
Congratulations.
That brings us to staff reports.
We're almost there. Transfer station's moving along good. They plan on having a cleaning with our crew in Friday, so that means they're basically done except for the paving. We're working on those, trying to get Hinkle to open up a little earlier and get that finished up. We're hoping to have a date at the next commission meeting for an opening. We're that close. I know y'all approved this change order. We have one other small change order for $2,400. That'll come to y'all on the next commission meeting for the plaque that goes on the building, the commemorative plaque. And, if y'all are good with that, we'll bring it forward at the next meeting. They'd like to get started. It takes 4 weeks it's molded and all that, so there's a little bit more time in it. Other than that, brush has been light so far this week. It's just Tuesday, but and Rumpke's ready for trash pickup Thursday, heavy trash pickup. So everything seems to be moving good. Like I said, we're at the end. They're done a few little minor punch list items this week, and it's there.
Thanks. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Any other staff? No. I do have a couple of items as a reminder. Immediately following this meeting, we will be having our budget workshop. So we will take a brief break after this, rearrange it, and then go right back into that. We do have our joint fiscal court meeting on April 3rd at 6 p.m. in the library, where we will be talking predominantly about the joint agencies and their funding requests for this year. The University of Kentucky students, as you all are aware, came in a year plus 2 years ago and helped with some of the conceptual design and drawing related to what could the future redevelopment of the transfer station look like. They will be back on site on Friday, April 4th at 9:30 at the current site. The students are coming back to do some reflection. I know UK is wanting to do an article in their paper on that, so they will be back on site. Certainly everybody's welcome if you'd like to speak to those students. That'll be 9:30 on April 4th. We did meet this week with the state transportation cabinet related to the bridge, the footbridge that is going over as they continued on their project, and they relocated things. So typically in a design process, you'll do a location, and then as you go to do construction, you relocate utilities as well. As they relocated things, as they were ready to move forward with construction on that project, They recognize that where the footbridge was designed to be put would interfere with one of our major water lines. So certainly we want to be good partners with them on what that looks like. The state is willing to move the water line if that's the best path forward for this project. But that's not quick nor easy, and certainly we have a duty and concern to protect our infrastructure as much as possible. So working with the state, we will be engaging some engineering in order to see what does that movement look like. We'll put together some options, and the state will alternatively look at options of, well, what does it look like if their bridge plan is slightly changed or redesigned? And then the state will make a decision if it's a better path for them to relocate the water line or move how they have the bridge designed. So I know everybody was looking forward to moving that project along, but that is something that we want to handle with the appropriate level of care. It probably will not go as quick as people want to see, but just want to ensure that we are working hand in hand with the state to be the best partners possible. But they will reimburse us for those costs related to movement of that water line if that's the direction we go in. Did want to talk a little bit about implementation of ordinance 2024-25, which is the implementation of our electric rates. As we do in October, we implemented the first year of our rate study adjustment, and those rates include not only a factor related to consumption, but there's a factor related to, there's a flat meter fee on each one. So that is for water, sewer, electric, there's residential, commercial, there are a lot of factors that go into that table. We did discover that on the electric, the flat meter fee, so for example, what was previously for standard electric had a $10.80 charge, should have gone to $12. And that piece of altering the fees in the new system as we transition through the billing system did get missed on electric. So there has been an underbilling of the residents over the last 6 months. For residential, again, that would be $1.20 per month. So certainly as staff, we're tasked with administering the ordinances as written and consistent. So wanted to be transparent with you all that underbilling had occurred. And if we move forward with correcting it and recuperating that, it would not show up on the April bill. Those are already prepared and ready to go out. We would have to do that on the May bills. There's also the new rates for the second year will come into effect in July. So wanted to lay that out for you if the commission wants us to go forward or go backwards. Certainly the way it's written is we would recoup that item, but wanted to share that with you all.
How many customers do we have that are on the budget when it comes to electricity?
We probably have to get that number to you. I don't have that number right off.
Okay.
About 150.
Out of the whole city of Paris? Okay. That's not very many.
I had thought, you and I had a conversation about this, and I thought that it would be, don't get me wrong, when I say it's not about the money, it's about the money, but I thought we could spend too much time on I think it's $28,000 plus or minus is the number that has not been, that we've missed, I guess. And I thought personally that for $28,000 that we would start anew. We wouldn't try to go back $1.20 times 3 or 4 months or anything like that. We'd start anew. I would say it was our fault, no fault of anybody else. So in my opinion, I thought we would just start April 1st. Here's what it is. We're moving on with life for $1.20 per household, per residential. That's just me.
Second.
Everybody else has got an opinion, and you know what they say about that. There they go.
So we heard that as a second from Commissioner Brooks. Is that in the form of a motion to address this going forward?
If so, I would move that we move forward from April 1 with the, and not go back on the $1.20 that we missed out on. I would make that motion.
So we have a motion and a second. It is corrected for the bills that are about
Okay.
to draw.
Moving forward, okay.
Moving forward, yes. Any discussion on that item?
I believe that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The last item that I wanted to address is, I know that we've had some challenges related to our water systems lately. So two-part that I wanted to discuss on that is, one, to share with you all that there will be a notice that is attached to the upcoming bills that goes through and describes the most recent challenge that we had that resulted in the boil water notice throughout the community. We've discussed that was related to a mechanical failure at the plant, which resulted in our turbidity or the cloudiness of our water to fall outside of the realm of what's acceptable. So this notice does go out and explain what those levels are supposed to be, what those levers went to. It does talk about that, you know, at this point, there's nothing that needs to be done. You don't need to boil your water. You don't need to take any action. It is not an emergency. We've already addressed that. We've already resolved it. But we do have an obligation to put out a notification that outlines what the issue was, and it was related to the turbidity or the cloudiness of that level. So I provide you all a copy of that. That will go out with the bills as well.
Jamie, have you come up and discuss a little bit of it?
If you, sure, absolutely.
So the boil water we issued on Monday, the situation there was, as Jamie mentioned, we had a failure in a piece of PVC that cracked, and operators seemed to think that they were seeing what the flow of the chemical going into the system. However, it wasn't adequate. They were just witnessing the flow of it. So when I was made aware of it, and it was pretty much too late at that point, I went ahead and made the boil water call. The plant was shut down, but unfortunately, we had so much water within the plant itself that we had to go ahead and send that out. We just don't have an option in that situation. But you know, it certainly seems like there's a black cloud kind of hovering over the plant the last few weeks. The one that happened a couple of weeks before the attack, that was based on a failure in our telemetry, and the tank we had one tank that kind of.
Can you move it closer? I can't hear. I'm sorry.
The tank, we had one tank that got low on water, which created some more pressure areas in the higher elevated parts of the city and of the distribution system. So we went ahead and anytime something drops below 20 psi, it's just precautionary boil waters to be issued, and both of those are EPA standards. The most recent one, basically, if your turbidity gets above 0.3, leaving the plant, you have so many hours to reel it back in. But with the significance of this one, we knew we couldn't reel it back in that amount of time, so we went ahead and did the boil water. When I arrived on site, Jamie and Kevin were there, and we were kind of hashing out what our options were. But nonetheless, again, it's been a hectic couple of 3 weeks with the plant and trying to get everybody online and everybody understanding what's going on and the significance of these situations. So.
I did want to highlight, because one of the most common questions that we get, so, and I know I've shared this with all of you before, but for general public understanding, is we get a common question of shortly after we issue the boil water, inevitably the next question is, has the boil water been lifted? And sometimes that comes an hour or 2 hours right after we've called the boil water advisory. So wanted to share a little bit about how that works for us. So once the city calls a precautionary boil water advisory, the state's the only one who can formally lift that. So we do have a process that we have to engage with the state, and they're the ones who issue the clearance. So we're not always in control of what that time frame does look like. But what we are required to do is once an issue is resolved or remedied, and so I'll use it, not to, my goal to use this is just for an example standpoint, because I think it's the easiest one to kind of wrap our heads around, is if a pipe breaks, we're required, if pressure drops in an area below a certain standpoint, we're required to call that precautionary boil water notice. So if a pipe breaks and we know that there was a loss in pressure, we will call that precautionary boil water advisory. Now staff is out there repairing that pipe. Now that repair may take 12 hours, that repair may take 16 hours, that repair sometimes is done pretty quickly. But there's a period of time where they're working to resolve the issue. Then once everything is done and resolved, there's a period, and then we pull the samples. So once we pull samples, which is where we're testing the water to make sure it's meeting all of our standards and there's no issues, that has a period that's 24 hours. So when you run into it, while sometimes we talk about a 24-hour period, often what's experienced in a boil water advisory is going to be longer than that, because you have to build in the time for us to repair the issue, address the issue, and go forward. So we don't often put out an anticipated boil water advisory, because there's so many factors that come into play, including that response time from the state, that we don't want anybody to be concerned that just because one's running longer than maybe the last one, that there's an issue. There are just several factors that go into when a boil water advisory gets lifted. So I've seen them go, up to 70, not here, but up to 72 hours before. So it really depends on the factor of what the situation is. So I wanted to kind of provide that frame of reference, that it's really not going to be a shorter window than 24 hours ever, because we have to incubate those samples for 24 hours. But as far as how much beyond that is really gonna vary.
I think maybe if we could come up with some type of way to notify our customers with what you just did with us. I think when people go into the second day, they're going, are we still under this? I don't know that they know there's this 24 hours, that it could be up to 72, could be longer. So people turn their anger towards us. Well, we've still not heard anything. Are we still under this? I don't know, after 24 hours, an update through our alert system, informational pamphlet, something to go out with our bills. I don't know. I learned something, and I've been with the city 30 some years at this point. I had no idea. People expect a boil of water to be a few hours or half a day, or as soon as the repair's fixed, we're good to go. So I've learned.
Yeah, that's the goal of
And I
some
think
of
we
this
need to
conversation is, I think we need to put some of that information out there to educate a little bit better.
A lot of the calls we receive at the plant are, people don't know how to get the communication, usually if I'm there at my computer, I will walk them through the webpage and how to sign up for the 911 or the rave alerts. And I have some that I had a lady call, she said, I have a very minimal social media footprint. And so I choose one in particular that I walk through that process, but a lot of them will get that, they don't get the rave alerts.
And I know there's gonna be an article in the paper on Thursday, and we hit on the rave alert. One of the things that I would make sure to push out and continue to encourage while we talk about rave alert, and I think we saw some great success with the last campaign. We did on the rave alert, I think there was over 1,200 new people to sign up to it. That number may not be quite exact, but we saw a much larger set of people sign up for it. One of the things that is a challenge is the rave alert profiles will expire. And I know myself, because it happened to me, is you will get like 6 or 7 emails where it says, well, your rave alert's about to expire, your profile's about to expire, or how you set up your profile maybe doesn't hit the right things. And then we're relying on people to go in and continuously, reactivate that profile. And so what we see is that drops off after a period of time. people may just not go back in and sign that up. So it's definitely something that continuing to have different communication methods, following up, how do we get the information out there, is an important piece of this.
Take a minute, kind of update everybody on this project too, since I'm up here. So Saturday morning early, we did remove a check valve that lied between the plant and the raw water pumps, which prevents water from flowing, treated water from flowing back into the creek. So that check valve is about, we're guessing 50, 60 years old. So we removed that. I can't say enough about Darrell Wells and Judy Construction. They were very timely in getting it done. There was definitely a little a level of stress amongst several of us going into that project, but it was done, and they're cleaning up everything, putting a new hatch back down. So that's a big plus for us. We are also in the process of excavating soon to be, that we had to get this project out of the way first, but soon to be excavating the area for the transformer pad. And then we'll start excavating the area for the E-house, which was also part of that change order that you all approved earlier. The E-house was moved over several feet. And one of the biggest parts of this project is the switch over from the chlorine gas to sodium hypochlorite. We are kind of waiting on the vendor that's providing some of the telecommunications with that project to get with us. So we've got some questions we've got to resolve. I think everything is plumbed in and almost ready to go. We just need to get some of those loose ends tied up to where it's gonna tell us how much hypochlorite we have in each tank, and it'll tell us our feed rates and so on and so forth. We just got to tie up those loose ends before we put it into a testing process, which is basically we'll fill the tanks up with water and leak test the whole system, and then we'll remove that water, and then the next step will be switching over to the hypo. I really thought we would be here by the end of this month, but I'm thinking now maybe with a little luck, mid-April.
Thanks, Chad.
So the other second.
We've discussed this for the last couple of meetings about Rumpke. Can we get them maybe to highlight in their billing, the steps that people are supposed to take when their garbage is not picked up? We're still having some problems with that. And on our end, we are still having people leave their cans either on the sidewalk or in the street from Thursday to Thursday, and sometimes all of that is knocked over, or an animal gets in it, or there's somebody sort of dumpster diving to see what's in people's trash, and it gets scattered all over the neighborhood. We need to enforce that they need to put their cans behind their house, not in the street, not on the sidewalk. It's getting to be a headache.
Certainly, and we'll get with code enforcement on that. That is a code enforcement issue. And we'll get with Rumpke to get a graphic, not only for them to put in their billing, but we can share that as well. But we know that we circled around and continue to have some conversations with our contact, and they did indicate that they have processes in place where they do a review, which includes GPS and review of the cameras, but if it is determined that a service was missed, at the fall to Rumpke, they will credit that bill. So we'll go ahead and have them outline that process.
I see Magistrate Scott Wells back here from Millersburg, from Fiscal Court, and I wondered, did you have anything, Scott, that?
No, just come to.
Oh, you came, okay, all right, that's fine, all right, just wanted to make sure we weren't, okay. Okay, all right, that's fine. Oh, I guess my next question is, are we getting ready to go into executive session?
We do not need the executive session today. That is on your agenda, so we can go ahead and, if I can get a motion to adjourn, we'll break.
I will make that motion.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
We'll take about a 10-minute recess and we'll be back for the